Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in multimedia, the freshman variety here at Bullard High School, it's time to start talking about animation. So at the beginning of the year, I told you that this class was about 5 major things. First one that we did in semester 1 was graphic design, and we did some photography in first semester, and we're finishing up some photography now here in the second semester. But we're also going to go over animation, videography, and music creation so that we can, in the true spirit of the word multimedia, use all 5 of those for a final project. So this is kind of our introduction into the animation process, and it features one of the heavy hitters in the industry. Pixar Studios, now owned by Disney, have come out with some of the best animated features for the past 10 years or more. And so they put together some great lessons on how they approach their projects, and we're going to go over a few of those. The first module has to do with lighting. So this is the first tutorial of 3 for the lighting feature. You'll do 3 exercises related to the material. So we'll play the videos and then do each activity. And there will be a before and after screenshot that you'll capture, and you'll see when we get to the first activity. So, without any further instruction, let us get to their video explanations, and we'll get to the first activities. Note, we won't do all activities in this because a lot of them are like hands-on with paper and in-person and stuff. So, of all the activities that there's 1 through 7. We're only doing 3 of those, so I'll skip the ones that we won't do, and we'll show you in detail the ones that we will do as far as class projects and assignments. So here we go with the first video from Pixar Studios.
And I'm a lighter at Pixar. I wanted to tell you about some of the lighting techniques we use in our films. But first, we should clarify something that confuses a lot of people, including my parents. Computer animated films use lights and lighters just like any other film. In a live-action set like this one, everything you see is illuminated by some kind of light source. If there's no light, you don't see anything. It's exactly the same in our films. The difference is that our lights are virtual digital lights, just like the characters and the virtual camera. This means that we do get complete control over the light, which is super cool, because we use light to evoke very specific mood and story points in every single shot in a movie. One critical aspect of lighting in our films is choosing the light intensity and size. A larger light will create a softer, more diffuse image, softer shadows, whereas a harsher, more focused light source can create more tension. Another very critical aspect of light is its color, which is measured in temperature. A cooler, bluer light, whereas a warm, soft, more orange light can create a friendlier, open atmosphere. Another technique is the directionality of light, where you put the light in a scene. A front-lit character can appear more open and approachable. A character who's backlit can appear dark and dangerous. A bottom-lit character can appear spooky. If they're top-lit, they can feel like they're being interrogated. We use all of these lighting techniques to heighten both the look and the emotional aspect of a shot. Here, for example, are some shots from Incredibles 2. You'll notice we use 2 very different lighting setups. In the first instance, Violet approaches Tony and realizes he has forgotten about their date and barely remembers her. Now, this is a very common scene. A long, sterile hallway with a lineup of lockers. The light sources are blue overhead fluorescent lights. That makes the hallway feel like a sterile, almost hospital-like environment, and makes the audience feel unsettled and uncomfortable, similar to what Violet is feeling. Now contrast this with later in the film, where Violet and Tony interact in a stairwell at school. It's a happier moment, and the 2 of them make a new connection. The main light source is a warm and soft outdoor sun, filtering in through the trees. The lighting feels friendly, in keeping with the emotional state of the character. That's the emotional story point, and we want to feel it in every aspect, including the lighting.
So as you can see right off that with animation, there's a lot of planning and consideration that even goes into just something we don't even think about, the lighting part. So let's continue on with light quality, the next video.
And I'm a director of photography for lighting here at Pixar, or DP for short. The main job of a DP is to direct the lighting on the movie. I'll be your host for this lesson on the art of lighting. We'll explore how lighting is done in both physical and virtual scenes. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a chance to set the pace for actual Pixar shots. Before we start, I should warn you that there are spoilers ahead in Toy Story, Coco, and The Incredibles 2. So you may want to watch those movies before starting this lesson. Okay, let's get started. In order to know how virtual lights work, it helps to understand how lights in our physical world behave. So let's start this lesson by learning about real lights using a simple real-world exercise. To do this exercise, you will use a basic scene, 2 white walls and a white floor with a white ball in the middle. You can construct this scene a couple of different ways. One way is to tape 2 pieces of white foam core along one edge to the walls and sit them on a white piece of paper. For your light source, you can use anything, but a flashlight, desk light, or clip light would work well. The light source that you choose and where you place it will influence the kind of light that it provides. You could call this the quality of the light. There are 3 main aspects of light: color and softness. Intensity is how bright it is. This depends on the power of the light. But we can also change the intensity by moving our light closer or further away from the subject. Another way to change the intensity is to put a piece of paper or cloth in front of the light. Softness is defined by how harsh the light is. You can see this in how soft the shadows are from the light and how the light falls away on the surface. This depends on the size of our light relative to the subject. For example, a small light like this will cast sharp shadows and fall away more quickly around the surface, while a larger light will cast softer shadows and fall off more gradually. There's also a trick filmmakers use to make a smaller light source act like a larger one. They bounce the light off of a bright surface, which turns the surface into a large light source. Notice the shadows are much softer because the light source is larger. Finally, let's talk about the color of a light source. To change the color of the light, we can put a filter in front of it, such as a piece of colored cloth, plastic, or paper like this. Another way to change the color is to bounce it off of a colored surface. For example, let's add 2 colored walls to our scene. Watch what happens to the light as it bounces off each wall. Observe the change in colors to the light and shadows. Notice how the ball is picking up some of the blue bounce light from the left wall, and the shadow of the ball is getting red light from the back wall. As you can see, depending on how we use our light, we can change its qualities such as intensity, color, and softness. In this first exercise, you'll build this lighting box and observe the effects of the lighting, drawing what you see. However, it's important to know that the goal of this exercise is not about making beautiful, well-drawn images. It is about learning to observe light and shadow. Enjoy!
So rather than construct a box at home, obviously, we're going to skip Activity 1 and we will move forward on the couple videos that lead up to Activity 3 actually. So Activity 1 and 2 are physical activities. We'll start with Activity 3, so 2 more videos and then the activity.
the last exercise, you developed your sense of light and shadow quality by paying attention to intensity, softness, and color. Now, let's think about the various roles of light in lighting a scene. In photography and filmmaking, we define a light by how it is being used, and since those are common terms in those industries, it's useful to know them. To see the different ways lights are used, let's break down this shot and look at the lights one at a time. Key, fill, bounce, rim, and kick. First, let's turn off everything except this light. This is the key light, and it's the main shaping light in the scene. By shaping, we mean that it helps things look dimensional. Let's return to our light box and try this out. I'm going to swap out my ball with an orange for this exercise, and here's my light in a typical key light position. Now let's return to our scene and turn on another light, the fill light. Here's what the scene looks like with only the fill light. This light adds light into the shadows and reduces contrast. One example of a fill light is a light that we get from the sky. It's usually a softer light and so doesn't have strong shaping and shadows the way a key light does. Let's return to our light box again and try this out. Here's what it looks like if I add a fill light to the scene. And here is just the fill light by itself. Now let's return to our virtual example and turn on a new light, the bounce light. This light bounces off of surfaces and gets cast back into the scene. This happens naturally, like when light bounces off of a wall, the table, the floor, or even a shirt. Since light automatically bounces around a scene, we sometimes want to exaggerate it or simply add extra light to the subject. The way to do this is by bouncing the light off a white card that is off camera, like this. Another light that we sometimes use is called a rim light. Rim lights are used to help carve something out from the background by outlining it with a rim of light. This is done by pointing the light into the camera from behind the subject. To create a rim light on the orange, I'll place my light over here, like this. Finally, we can also create what's called a kick light. Here is our scene with a kick light only. Like the rim light, the kick light can be used to help separate the subject from the background. This light, however, is brought around a little more to the side of the character, and rather than being an outline, gives extra shaping to the subject. To create a kick light on the orange, I'll move my light over to the side, like this. Sometimes, but not always, a kick light is coming from something in the set, such as a window or the sun behind the subject. Okay, those are the main roles that we are going to cover in this lesson. Let's see all these lights turned on together: key, fill, bounce, rim, and kick. In the next exercise, you'll have a chance to explore these basic ideas with something that we ask many people at Pixar to try: lighting an orange. Good luck!
Okay, so again, like I said, we'll skip the activity, the physical lighting of an orange, but you'll get your chance to virtually do the same thing. So one last short video, and then we'll do activity 3 for the very first one.
Now that you've gotten a feel for lighting in the real world, it's time to get your hands on some. In the next exercise, we have a lighting tool which will allow you to experiment with lighting in orange in a virtual environment. You'll be able to change the position, intensity, size, and color of a virtual light. The first 2 sliders allow you to adjust the horizontal and vertical position of the light, like this. The next slider allows you to adjust the intensity of the light. Below that, we have light size. Notice the effect it has on the lit areas as well as the shadow. As we increase the size of the light, the edges of the shadow blur and the light softens on the surfaces. Finally, we can adjust the color of the light from deep red to deep blue. If you don't want any color, simply set this to white. In this next exercise, you can experiment with these different parameters in order to answer a few challenge questions we have for you. Have fun!
Okay, so now that we've gotten all this high quality information about the lighting features and how lighting works, we're going to try it out with this virtual activity here. So like they said, they actually have their employees at Pixar do this to kind of understand the lighting. So let's see if we can remember these questions. So how is the light being used in this image? So is that the rim light, the key light, or the kick light? So let's see if we can remember. Is it the key light? Yes. Let's see what the explanation is. This is the key light. The key light is the main shaping light. It is placed in front of the object, often slightly above and to the side. And question 2 here is, how is the light being used in this image? So this obviously isn't the key light because we already did key light, so it's got to be kick light or bounce. Are we bouncing off something, or is it coming from the side? Maybe is this bounce light? Let's see. No, it must be the kick light. There we go. Let's explain. This is the kick light. The kick light helps separate the object from the background. It is generally placed behind the object but off to one side, so the light is coming from the back side, and so you can kind of make out how it shapes the orange. So now to the exercise. Here's what we have to do. We have to make our picture down here look like this picture here. So for doing our project, we need a before picture and after picture. So I'm going to use my snipping tool here, or actually what I use is my browser one. And I'm going to do this for my before. So I'll save that as lighting orange before, and then I'll call the one afterwards the after, obviously. And so what we're trying to do is match what that orange looks like here, using the dials like she did in her exercise. So and once you see a green check mark, you'll know that you've done it right. So horizontal light, okay, so I'm going to get some shadow there. So the left side is mostly in darkness. Okay, vertical light. I'm trying to match where the light is. And light intensity. Light size, so I'm looking at the shadow now to match the shadow. Is it a big shadow maybe? And then light color. So my goal is to get that check mark right there. So now I'm good. So it's not going to match exactly, but what you're trying to do is get the right settings on each one of these dials so that this mostly looks like this. So my shadows are relatively the same. The brightness on the right side of the orange is relatively the same. The light color is the same. So if I were to change this drastically, go from red, yellow, gray, blue, I'm going to get that back to that green check mark, and I'm going to get my after picture. So here we go with my after to show that green check mark, and I'm going to call this lighting orange after. So that's my first set for the first exercise, and we have 2 exercises to go. So I will make separate tutorial videos for the following exercises. So go to tutorial number 2.